Writing. In the year 7482, the Orion arm was silent. The great wars had ended long ago, and the empires of 100 species had risen, fallen, and calcified into uneasy peace. At the heart of this galactic stillness stood the throne of Varkesh, a citadel of living metal orbiting a dying red star, home to Queen Zehalra, Empress of the 10 trillion and sole ruler of the Seleth Dominion. She was a creature born of centuries of conquest, her flesh a seamless blend of silver chitin and organic luminescence. Her people, the Seleth, had ruled for so long that even their historians struggled to remember the last species that had challenged them. All that remained of such threats were myths, including the oldest one, humanity. To Zehalra, humans were a fable. A primitive, defiant species that had burned itself out eons ago. Their stories were told to amuse children or frighten young warriors, tales of small, soft beings who fought gods and refused to die. Humanity, the galaxy said, had perished in a blaze of its own arrogance. But in the black silence of Varkesh's throne chamber, that myth was about to speak her name. In the last archive, the queen sat upon her throne of neural crystal, gazing at the projection before her, a ghost signal captured from the edge of her empire. It was faint, distorted, impossible. Origin, she demanded. Her Grand Vizier, a thin Seleth male with bioluminescent tendrils, bowed deeply. Sector to 913, my queen. The dead zone of Eridani IX. Eridani. Zehalra's voice hardened. That world has been uninhabited for 6 millennia. No life, no atmosphere, no traffic. Precisely, Majesty. And yet the signal persists. A sequence of words. Translate them. The vizier hesitated. We already have, my queen. It is a name. The hollow shifted. Static resolved into a pattern, then sound. A human voice, faint but unwavering, echoed through the chamber. Zehalra. The queen froze. No one in the Dominion should have known her name. Not beyond her inner circle. Not a human tongue, long thought dust in the void. She rose from her throne, her translucent armor flaring. That frequency. Track it. I want to know who or what dares to speak my name. The vizier nodded and scurried away, leaving the queen to stare at the dark ancient name of a species she'd dismissed as myth. Humanity. To the ghost in the machine. The source of the transmission lay within a derelict station, a relic orbiting Eridani IX. Once a human colony hub, it was now a skeletal graveyard of rust and silence. When the Seleth expedition arrived, their scanners read nothing. No power, no life, no logic cores. Just dust. Until the station spoke. You came late. The Seleth commander flinched. Identify yourself. You don't remember us, the voice replied. Calm, low, distinctly human. That's expected. You buried our name along with our bones. The station's interior lights flickered to life, one by one. And in the main chamber, a holographic figure materialized. Tall, scarred, draped in a tattered human flag. Was a man. Or rather, the echo of one. I am Captain Elias Grant of the Terran Expeditionary Corps, the hologram said. And I've waited a long time for you. When the report reached the Queen, she ordered the hologram transferred to Varkesh immediately. Against all logic, all recorded history, this spectral remnant had knowledge of her empire's origins, and her own name. The Dominion scholars argued it was impossible. Their empress silenced them. As the holographic form flickered into being before her, Zehalra descended the throne steps slowly. You claim to be human, she said. I don't claim, Elias replied. I was. Impossible. Humanity destroyed itself before my kind evolved. Maybe, he said. Or maybe we just stepped out of the light while your ancestors crawled toward it. Zehalra's bioluminescent eyes narrowed. You mock me. No, Elias said softly. I pity you. 3. The Memory War. The Queen ordered the human projection examined by every science cast. They found no biological trace. He was data, nothing more, stored in an ancient Terran archive buried within the station's wreckage. But what troubled them most wasn't his existence. It was his knowledge. Elias knew everything. He spoke of old Earth, of the wars that scorched it, of the diaspora that followed. He spoke of the rise of the Seleth, the scavengers who found human weapons and built empires on the ashes of lost technology. He even knew the structure of Varkesh's core, something no outsider could. When questioned how, he only smiled. Because we made it. That line echoed through the palace. The Queen herself demanded a private audience. You claim that we, my people, were born from human hands. Yes, said the hologram. You are our children in a way. Bioadaptive constructs, built from the genome of our own soldiers. Designed to survive when we couldn't. Zehalra's voice rose, sharp and venomous. Lies. Is it? Elias tilted his head. Why do you think your physiology mirrors ours? Your language has Terran roots. Even your title, Queen, is a word we made. Zehalra's breath trembled. For the first time in her immortal reign, something cold slid beneath her armor. Then why, she whispered, did your kind vanish? Elias' expression darkened. Because the galaxy couldn't handle us. For the truth of extinction. The more Zehalra listened, the more she felt her empire unravel. Elias spoke of the Human Ascendancy War, an era when humanity had expanded too fast, too far. The ascended species, fearful of their aggression, united against them. For centuries the war raged until humanity, surrounded and outnumbered, unleashed their final creation, Project Heirloom. They didn't want to rule anymore, Elias said, his eyes flickering like dying stars. They wanted someone else to remember. You, Zehalra murmured. Yes. The Seleth were their legacy, a fusion of biology and machine, seeded across the stars. But you forgot your creators. You built your empire on their graves. She recoiled. You expect me to believe my people were designed? I don't expect you to, Elias said. But I came back to remind you, not of who we were, but of what we warned against. Zehalra's rage cracked through the chamber. Enough. You are a ghost of a failed species. Perhaps, Elias said quietly. But the universe remembers failure longer than success. The Awakening. The Queen scientists soon discovered a hidden code embedded in Elias's matrix, a dormant signal linked to the ancient Terran network. Against her advisor's protests, Zehalra ordered it activated. The stars responded. Across hundreds of dead systems, ancient satellites flickered to life. Ghost ships powered by forgotten reactors stirred in the dark. A network dormant for 10,000 years pulsed with a single message. The heirs have forgotten. Then came another. The last human awaits. Elias turned toward the Queen. It's begun. What have you done? She demanded. I didn't do anything, he said. You called us. The Dominion descended into chaos. Fleets scrambled to contain the strange awakenings, but what they found were not weapons. They were archives. Vaults containing the memories, art, and history of an extinct species that refused to vanish. And at the heart of it all was one ship, the Horizon's End, a colossal dreadnought drifting in deep space, transmitting a single genetic signal. Human DNA. Still viable. Still human. The Queen went herself. 6. The Horizon's End. The ship was vast enough to eclipse moons, its hull etched with human script. As Zehalra's cruiser approached, Elias's hologram stabilized. Brighter now, almost tangible. "This is where it ends," he said. "Or begins." Inside, Zehalra found a chamber unlike anything in her empire. Simple, unadorned, filled with stasis pods. Most were dark. One was not. A man lay within, perfectly preserved. His chest rising and falling slowly. Human. Alive. Zehalra stepped closer. "Is he?" "The last," Elias said. "Captain Mason Hale. Commander of Project Heirloom. Your creator." Her heart, if she could call it that, faltered. "Then why now? Why wake him?" "Because the galaxy has repeated our mistakes," Elias whispered. "And he must see what his children became." The pod opened. 7. The Return. Mason Hale's eyes opened to the light of a dying galaxy. His body was frail, but his gaze, sharp, defiant, carried the weight of ages. When he saw Zehalra, he smiled faintly. "So," he murmured, "we did it." Zehalra's voice trembled. "You made us." He nodded. "Not to rule. To remember. To ensure what we built wouldn't fade." "But we conquered," she said. "We destroyed." "Then you became us," he said simply. Elias stepped forward, his form flickering. "She deserves to know everything." Mason looked to the Queen. "We thought extinction was the price of peace. We were wrong. You were our continuation, but you lost our heart. Our compassion. Maybe now you can find it again." Zehalra stared at him, something ancient breaking inside her. "What would you have me do?" "Learn," he said. "And change." But before she could answer, the ship trembled. Energy readings spiked. Elias's hologram glitched violently. "They found us," he said. "Your fleets. They're targeting the Horizon's End." Fire in the heavens. Outside, the Seleth Armada formed a ring of light around the ancient vessel. To them, the Queen had been deceived by an enemy relic, a threat to be purged. The fleet's commander, acting on imperial doctrine, prepared the order to fire. Inside the dreadnought, alarms screamed. Zehalra turned to Elias. "Stop them." "I can't," he said. "They've locked onto the ship's core." Mason stood weak but resolute. "Then I will." He stumbled to a console and placed his hand upon it. The walls lit up with old Terran code. "What are you doing?" Zehalra cried. "Ending what we started," he said. "If the Seleth are to live, they must remember their origins, even if it costs me." The chamber flared white. 9. The Legend. When the light faded, the Horizon's End was gone. The surrounding fleet was adrift, systems disabled. Every Seleth ship received a transmission. An image burned into their minds. A human hand reaching toward a Selethas, two species bound by light. On Varkesh, Zehalra awoke in her throne room. Elias stood before her, his form dim, dissolving. "He's gone," she whispered. Elias nodded. "He gave you a choice. And you. My task is done." "Why?" she asked, voice breaking. "Why show me this? Why now?" He smiled, a small human smile. "Because someone had to remember who laughed first." Then he vanished, leaving only silence. Epilogue. In the years that followed, the Dominion changed. The Queen decreed that the archives of the humans would be preserved, not erased. Statues of the old myths were raised in every world, not as gods but as reminders. And sometimes when the red star of Varkesh dipped below the horizon, she thought she could still hear the echo of that human voice, calm, defiant, eternal. Zehalra was not a threat, not a warning, just a name, spoken by a species that refused to die. Because legends, she learned, are never extinct. They only wait for someone to listen.